Former Trump campaign advisor Roger Stone is sentenced to more than 3 years in prison after being convicted of lying to Congress, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering during the Mueller investigation. The question now is, will President Trump pardon Roger Stone? Here's the president on that yesterday.
I'm not going to do anything in terms of the great powers bestowed upon a president of the United States. I want the process to play out. I think that's the best thing to do, because I'd love to see Roger exonerated, and I'd love to see it happen, because I personally think he was treated very unfairly.
And 2020 candidate Tom Steyer is reacting to all this on social media by tweeting, Roger Stone tried to establish a back channel with WikiLeaks because the Trump campaign wanted him to. He lied about it to protect the president, got caught, and sentenced to jail. Pardoning Stone would be straightforward corruption. Joining me now, former Whitewater Independent Counsel Robert Ray, who is also former federal prosecutor and currently counsel to President Trump. Good to see you.
Nice
You've
to be with
grown
you,
a title since the last time we saw each other.
We got to stop that.
No, I know, it'll take me 15 minutes to introduce you. So you are working with the president now. Where is he on pardon with Roger Stone?
I think you heard what the president had to say, that he's following the matter very closely, but he doesn't need to act right at the moment. And so where things stand is Roger Stone has been sentenced. The second thing is that the judge still has under advisement the question about whether Roger Stone should be granted a new trial, and this relates to this whole question about whether or not there were any jurors that were biased.
One particular forewoman who is being looked at for some anti-Trump social media posting.
Right. And I just should say generally with regard to that, you know, just because there's a Democrat on the jury doesn't mean that you're disqualified from jury service. So
because everybody comes to it with their own personal background.
And the key thing in all these cases is, can you know, we all have our political preferences, and we may even make campaign contributions. That aside, are you able to judge the evidence fairly and give the defendant a fair trial without fear or favor? That will be one of the questions I'm sure that the judge will look at. But in any event, that ruling has to take place. And then after that, Roger Stone has an appeal. So it will be months before, you know, the matter is ultimately resolved. And while the appeal is pending, I expect that he will be on bail either by the order of this judge or by the Court of Appeals.
Judge Jackson decided to do it that way and not, because she could have done anything she wanted with executing that sentence.
Sure. I mean, ordinarily the idea is that you rule on the motion for a new trial first, and then obviously if that motion is denied, then you would go to sentencing. It is a bit odd. I think because this case attracted so much public profile and attention, I think she felt that it was time to step in and put a stop to all of the media discussion and just get the matter to sentencing. And I don't criticize the judge for that. I think that's an appropriate exercise of the judge's discretion.
Is the sentence better now that it matches what the Attorney General William Barr had said it really should be, and that's that 3-year, 4-month point rather than 7 to 9 years?
I have lived with the sentencing guidelines ever since I was a brand new prosecutor. When the sentencing guidelines came into effect, they were enacted November 1, 1987, and they started with cases around the time I first became a prosecutor in 1989, 2 years later. My own sense, after having spent 30 years at this, was that approximately a 3-year sentence was appropriate, and that's ultimately where it came in. And I think it struck a lot of, not just me, but a lot of people, that 7 to 9 years was unreasonably harsh.
What would you advise the president to do now? I had asked early on, why not just pardon him before it even got this far, and now you've got this months of going back and forth, which is hard on everybody because everybody's got to kind of stay.
Because I think the president is appropriately showing respect for the system and to allow this to play out. If he doesn't need to pardon because the judge takes, you know, some other action, either to grant him a new trial or the appeals process results in the granting of a new trial.
Politically, that might be
then you know, it's sort of a, you know, pardoning is sort of the last resort. You let the process play out. And so I disagree with the contention by others that if there were to be a pardon eventually, that would be a corruption of the pardon power. On the contrary, this is exactly what the pardon power was designed to do.
But it's political stones that you don't have to walk across, hot stones that you don't have to, to traverse.
But if you do, I mean, that's why the pardon power is there. It is meant to correct a situation in which people close to the president are, you know, it results in a miscarriage of justice, but for the fact that they have an association for the president, they would never have been investigated in the first place, which is what the president is suggesting. Now, whether he ultimately decides to exercise his pardon power remains to be seen.
Robert Ray, good to see you.
Thanks very much,
Thank
Harris.
you very much.